What does it feel like to be judged before you've even spoken a word? Marcus Ellison knew that feeling all too well as he stepped onto the tarmac, the humid Miami air clinging to his skin. He adjusted the collar of his tailored blazer, his polished loafers clicking against the pavement, and boarded the first-class cabin of Flight 237. The plane was a sleek, modern jet, its interior a symphony of cream leather and polished chrome. Marcus, a 38-year-old tech mogul, had flown this route countless times, yet today something felt off. The flight attendant's smile faltered as she glanced at him, her eyes lingering a moment too long on his dark skin and the casual confidence in his stride. Marcus settled into his window seat, the best on the plane. He pulled out his laptop, ready to review the acquisition deal that had brought him to Miami. His company, Ellison Innovations, was on the verge of a $2 billion merger, and he was the mastermind behind it. As he typed, he overheard whispers from the galley. "He doesn't look like he belongs here," one flight attendant muttered. "Probably used miles to upgrade," another scoffed. Marcus's jaw tightened, but he kept his eyes on the screen. He'd heard worse. Growing up in a small, predominantly white town in Ohio, he'd learned to let prejudice roll off his backer, so he thought. The flight took off smoothly, the captain's voice crackling over the intercom with the usual pleasantries. Marcus tried to focus, but the whispers didn't stop. A second flight attendant, a tall woman with a tight bun, approached him. "Sir, can I see your boarding pass again?" Her tone was clipped, her smile forced. Marcus handed it over, his expression calm, but his heart racing. She scanned it, her brow furrowing as if she expected it to be a fake. "Thank you," she said curtly, returning it before walking away. The passenger across the aisle, an older white man in a suit, shot Marcus a sympathetic glance, but said nothing. Mid-flight, the tension escalated. Marcus ordered a glass of bourbon, a small indulgence after weeks of grueling negotiations. The same flight attendant returned, her lips pursed. "Sir, I'll need to see your ID for the drink order." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "Is that standard policy for first class?" he asked, his voice steady but laced with challenge. She hesitated, then mumbled something about protocol before retreating. The bourbon never arrived. By now, Marcus's patience was fraying, but he reminded himself why he was here: to close the deal, to keep building the empire he'd created from nothing. The final straw came an hour later. A third flight attendant, a young man with a nervous demeanor, approached. "Sir, we've had a complaint about noise from your seat. Could you keep it down?" Marcus blinked, incredulous. He hadn't spoken in over an hour, his laptop closed, his earbuds in. "Noise," he repeated, his voice low but sharp. The attendant stammered, "Just please, sir." Marcus leaned forward, his dark eyes locking onto the young man's. "Who complained?" The attendant glanced at the older man across the aisle, who was now engrossed in a magazine, avoiding eye contact. Marcus understood. This wasn't about noise. It was about him. The plane landed in New York, the city skyline glinting under the late afternoon sun. Marcus disembarked, his mind racing. He could let this go, chalk it up to another day of being the only one in a room. But something snapped inside him. He wasn't just Marcus Ellison, the kid who'd been called names in school or followed in stores. He was Marcus Ellison, CEO, a man who'd built a fortune through grit and genius. And he wasn't going to let this slide. As passengers streamed into the terminal, Marcus made a call. His assistant, Carla, picked up on the first ring. "I need you to get me the CEO of Horizon Airlines." Now, within minutes, Marcus was on the phone with Richard Holt, the airline's head. Holt's voice was warm, almost patronizing. "Mr. Ellison, what's the issue? I'm sure it's a misunderstanding." Marcus's response was ice cold. "Your crew on Flight 237 treated me like I didn't belong in first class. They questioned my ticket, ignored my order, and fabricated complaints. I want them gone." There was a pause. Holt cleared his throat. "That's a serious accusation. Let's investigate." Marcus cut him off. "No investigation. I own 15% of your airline stock, Mr. Holt. I'm also on the board of your parent company. Fire the crew, or I'll make sure your shareholders hear about this." Another pause, longer this time. Holt's tone shifted. "I'll handle it, Mr. Ellison. My apologies. By the next morning, the entire flight, crew, 3 attendants, and the captain, who'd done nothing to intervene, had been terminated. The news spread like wildfire across social media. Posts on X called it a victory against prejudice, while others debated whether Marcus had overstepped. He didn't care. For him, it wasn't just about the crew. It was about every time he'd been made to feel small, every glance that said he didn't belong. Marcus sat in his Manhattan penthouse, staring out at the city. He thought of his father, a janitor who'd worked nights to pay for Marcus's coding classes. He thought of his mother, who'd told him, "They'll try to dim your light, but you shine anyway." This wasn't just his fight, it was theirs too. He opened his laptop and drafted a statement for the press. "Discrimination doesn't just hurt the individual," he wrote. "It erodes trust, divides us, and cheapens our shared humanity. I acted not out of anger, but out of a demand for respect for myself and for everyone who's ever been judged by their skin." The statement went viral. Protests erupted outside Horizon Airlines headquarters, demanding better training and accountability. Marcus didn't join them. Instead, he poured his energy into his next move, a scholarship fund for underrepresented youth in tech, seeded with $10 million of his own money. He named it after his parents, Clara and James Ellison. Applications flooded in within days, each one a story of struggle and ambition that mirrored his own. Months later, Marcus boarded another Horizon flight. The crew was new, their smiles genuine. A young black flight attendant, no older than 25, approached him. "Mr. Ellison," she said softly, "thank you. I read about what you did. It's why I applied for this job." Marcus nodded, his throat tight. For the first time in a long time, he felt seen not as a threat, not as an anomaly, but as a man who'd fought for something bigger than himself. The plane took off, climbing into a sky streaked with gold. Marcus looked out the window, his reflection faint against the glass. He wasn't naive. He knew one act wouldn't erase centuries of bias. But he also knew that every step forward counted. He'd taken his. Now it was time for others to take theirs. Thank you for listening. If you find it interesting, please like and subscribe to follow the next stories.